Neil Sorensen, Leanne Chinkle and I are at Kokanee Creek, which is located in British Columbia. And what we're doing out here is shooting a 3-minute short. Now for the short, I have one shot that I want to do that tracks up a rock to reveal 2 people playing chess. And in order to do that, I'm going to use the pocket jib. So what I want to do in this video is show you how to both assemble and use the pocket jib, as well as how to motorize it and attach a cine slider to it as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is attach the pocket jib to the K-pod. Now there's 2 different things you can use to mount the pocket jib to the K-pod. You can either use the Hercules head or swivel mount. For this, we're going to use the Hercules head. When mounting the Hercules head to the K-pod, you can either mount with the washer flat side up or the other way. If you want to lock off your head, you want to have the flat side up. For this, because we're on a little bit of a hill, I'm going to have flat side down so I can adjust the ball head on this. In most situations when using this, I definitely recommend having the flat side up because your whole system will be a lot more stable when you do that. Now I'll just level this off here. And once you have this leveled off, you want to make sure you take the pin and lock off your head. Normally the pin rests in this position here, but when using the crane, you want to make sure you take the pin out and lock the head off. So the next thing I'm going to do is attach the pocket jib to the Hercules head. And in order to do that, I'm going to use 2 1/4-inch diameter thumb screws. When you grab the pocket jib, you want to make sure you line up the jib in the tilt direction of the Hercules head. So with this Hercules head tilts down this way, you want to make sure you attach the pocket jib in that direction and then screw it down. So now the pocket jib is attached to the Hercules head. The first thing I'm going to do is extend the weight bars. And you do that by loosening the screws. You want to make sure you don't loosen the screws all the way, just enough for it to slide down the rails, then tighten it down. You'll do the same for this side as well. There's recesses for these screw points, so when you screw it in, it won't slip, and it's also there for alignment as well. So once I have this fully extended, I want to take the ratchet thumb screws, loosen those up, pull the weight bar out, and turn it 90 degrees. Push these together and then tighten down the ratchet thumb screws, and your weight bar is extended. Now I'm going to grab the front and do the same thing. I'm going to loosen these screws just enough for it to slide down the arms all the way. Tighten them down. And then I'm going to take the ball relocator, loosen this off, and spin it around and tighten it down. So I'm going to grab the Hercules head, drop it into the bowl, put the washer first and then the screw. Tighten that down, and then using the new quick release system, I'm going to drop the camera into position. You want to remove the end clamps and slide the weights on. And we're now balanced. It should stop at each point if it is totally balanced. See there? Stops where I want it. Operating the pocket jib is extremely easy. There's a few things to keep in mind when you are operating the jib itself. The first is to make sure it's fully balanced. So if you move the crane up, let go, it should come to a complete rest. And again, I'll bring it down, let go, it'll come to a complete rest. The second thing you want to worry about when you're operating the jib is how to control the jib itself. There's 3 different knobs you need to worry about when you are operating the jib. The first is the pan knob, which controls your side-to-side movement. If you're using either the Hercules head or swivel mount, both have this pan knob. So you loosen it up, you have access to your side-to-side movement. You lock this knob off, and you've locked off your side-to-side movement. The second knob you want to worry about is your vertical brake knob, which is this one right here. You loosen this up, you have access to your vertical movement. And you lock this off, and you've locked off your vertical movement. If you're operating from the back, what I do is keep an eye on these 2 parameters here. If you're needing to do a full move, which uses the full reach of the jib itself, you need to keep an eye on this, because that's the highest point you have, and then when you bring it down, that's the lowest point. So if I am wanting to do that full movement, I keep an eye on these 2 points. Now the last knob you want to worry about is the drag knob, which is this one right here. Right now it's fully loosened. You'll see it moves freely. When you tighten this knob, a little bit more friction on it. It stops quicker than it would when it's fully loosened. Now, there's also 2 ways to operate this jib. You can either operate from the front or back. If you operate from the back of the jib, you'll probably want to run a monitor back here so you can see your image. Now, when I actually use the jib itself, I normally take all these knobs and loosen them up. You'll figure out what works best for you kind of the more you use the jib. So when I actually do the moves, I'll bring the jib down to the bottom. I'll just take a couple fingers on the jib itself, let the jib do the work. So all the momentum will be in the jib itself. I'll slowly bring it up and then ease out of my move. Again, do it one more time, bring it down and ease out. Now what separates this system from other systems on the market is the ability to attach a pan and tilt head to the front. And by doing that, you can create more dynamic shots than you could if you didn't have the head on the front. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do now is kind of take the shot here, go through the grass to reveal the creek. And when I operate from the front, what I'll do is loosen up the pan and tilt on the tripod head, and then I have access to all my axes now. So I'm going to slowly bring it through the grass, tilting down and panning with it as well, up over to reveal the creek. Now to attach the Cineslider, the first thing you want to do is make sure to lock off your crane. You'll bring it back to a boat level, lock it off, and then remove these 2 screws here. Once you've removed these screws, you're going to attach your Cineslider down onto these brackets. So we'll remove these screws on both sides, and just one of the screws, not both, because you want this screw to go through and keep this top plate attached to the bracket. So take those 2 off. Now, the next thing you want to do is loosen off these 2 brackets, because depending on what slider you use, you're going to need to adjust these to make sure they line up with the 2 mounting screws on your slider. So I'm going to take on the bottom here, it's got 2 screws. Just going to loosen them up just enough so you can slide this on the pocket jib. And now I can adjust that. This one here you can leave where it is as long as you have one that's loosened up. So I'm going to grab the Cineslider and line it up. So I'm going to take the 2 screws that I just removed and screw it into the Cineslider with an Allen key. And I'm going to make sure just to tighten down first the side that I haven't loosened on the brackets. And then once I have this side tightened down, I'm going to slide the brackets to line up with this hole here. And then take the other screw and screw it down. Once you have it screwed down, you should be able to move your cart side to side. Now what's great about this setup is the ability to do horizontal shots or shots on an angle. So I'm going to attach a head here. And say we want to do a shot with a little bit of an angle, tighten this down, we can take this head and bring our camera back to level. So if you want to have the camera tracking up, you can do that. Another thing you can do with this setup is camera forward, and you can do a push or pull move as well. So the last thing I'm going to do before I leave you with footage of the 3-minute short is show you how to motorize the pocket jib. There are a few things to keep in mind when motorizing the pocket jib. The first thing is to make sure your pocket jib is front heavy. So I'm going to take off one of these weights on the back, and you'll notice the camera will drop to the ground when this is loosened off. And then I'll put the clamp back on so the other weights don't fall off. And then in order to motorize this, you're going to need some additional pieces. You're going to need the shuttle pod cart, motor mount, and clamps and belt. So I'm going to grab one of the belt clamps and attach it to the arm of the crane, screw this down. Then I'm going to grab the belt and put the belt in the teeth of the clamp, making sure the teeth go into the grooves of the clamp itself. Tighten that down. Run this down to the shuttle pod motor mount. So right now I have the tabletop feet on the shuttle pod, and then I have the motor mount attached as well. So what you want to do is line this up with the belt clamp, and then you're going to need to weight down the cart itself. So I've got a rock here that I'm going to use to keep this from moving, and then I'm going to want to run the belt through the shuttle pod motor mount, similar to how you would motorize the shuttle pod itself, and then pull the belt tight. Now once you have the belt threaded through, you're going to want to grab a motor. For this one we're going to choose the 500 series motor, drop it into place, pull the motor tight, grab a Cat 5 cable, run it from the motor to the oracle. If you're using a base controller, you would attach to that. And then a battery cable running from the battery to the oracle. And the crane is now motorized. Now the key to this setup is that the weight here keeps the cart down. You don't want the cart lifting. You want to make sure you have enough weight to keep this solid. By doing that, your shot will be much more smooth. Now the last thing I want to do is leave you with some footage that the three of us are going to shoot around Kokanee Creek.